Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the City of Bettendorf Committee of the Whole meeting. Today is Monday, December 15th, 2025. It's 5 o'clock. Thank you all for being here. We have a little bit of a more robust agenda than we might have on Committee of the Whole evenings, especially this time of year. So we will start with a couple presentations. The first is our 2025 audit report. For this, we welcome our Finance Director, Mr. Jason Schatt, and Ms. Mia Frommelt from Bonsack and Frommelt LLP. Thank you for being here, especially you, Mia. He's always here.
Thanks, Your Honor. I know you guys will get sick of seeing me at this presentation table over the next couple of months. But tonight, to start off, we have the presentation of our FY25 audit report for the year ended June 30th of 25. And I don't want to steal any thunder from our independent auditors at Bonsack and Frommelt, and Mia will give a presentation here in a moment, but yeah, I think with that, I'll turn it over to Mia.
All right, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steal any of that.
I do have a summary presentation in front of you, and then we also have the slides, but I'm welcome to take any questions on some of the detailed documents as well. The first slide just summarizes right away the deliverables as part of the year-end audit. You have a bound financial document, which would have all of the financial statements of the city. It also has management's discussion and analysis, which is a nice comparison of prior year and current year, and then some statistical information in the back that shows you 10-year history of financial transactions of the city. And in addition, we have two letters that are issued to the board. One's called the board communication letter. It's a little bit thicker letter. It goes through and tells you that we did the audits as we agreed. If there were any issues, it would be identified in this audit. There are no issues in this letter. And it does talk about significant estimates, which I'll talk about a new one here coming up. And attached to it is management's representations to us as part of the year-end audit. So that's provided to you for review. And then we have one letter that's called a control deficiency letter. It has just a few comments when we're out here doing the audit. There are some things that we observe or have some recommendations on that don't rise to a finding, but we would want to make you aware of them. And so we issue those in just a separate audit. In terms of audits completed and the related results, we have 3 audits. We have the financial statement audit, which I mentioned, which is an audit of your financial statements. You have an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. That's a clean opinion, the highest level of an opinion you can receive. So that's great news. In that audit during the year, we had a new accounting standard that needed to be implemented. It's a new standard on compensated absences, so vacation, sick leave, personal leave, any absence that has been earned and that will be paid in the future or used in the future. And that accounting drastically changed how that estimate is determined each year. And the impact was that the city had to restate beginning equity for 2024. And then record a new estimate for compensated absences for 2025. And the financial statements, if you want to dig into the details at some point, are in note 16, goes through what the changes were. But the city was able to provide those estimates, and those estimates were part of our audit, and we have no issues in the implementation of them. The summary of that is the liability that's recorded for vacation and sick leave has gone up, and that largely impacted your enterprise funds, so the utility funds, aquatic fund, golf fund, and so forth. And then it impacted your government-wide statements, but no impact to your general fund, your main operating fund.
Your Honor?
Yes. Greg, go ahead.
Just so I understand, are we now required to show as a liability what we expect to expend in, say, sick leave, or what the total outstanding sick leave accrual is in the various funds?
It's an estimate of what you expect of the pool of sick leave today that you will be expending in the future.
Because we might say, for instance, that our employees have an average of 6 days of sick leave each year. So then the liability is the 6 days, not the 980 hours of sick leave that they may have accrued by virtue of longevity.
It's the 980 hours they've accrued with an estimate of that amount, what is it they truly will use over their career?
So the full 980 is now
Yes.
being booked as a liability.
Yes,
Citywide, that ought to be a fairly substantial number.
it is, yes.
Okay.
Yep, allocated.
Doesn't change the operations, but it's a
Doesn't
fairly
change-
sufficient
Does
number.
not change operations, does not change cash flow.
Yeah.
It just, yes, increases your liability,
Makes the numbers look worse.
yes.
So does it help if they get sick?
It just, what it basically means is the numbers are gonna look worse.
Yeah, it's a big change. Us as accountants have had to wrap our arms around that too. It's such a change in how we've done in the past.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
In terms of the other two audits, the government auditing standards audit, we obtain an understanding of internal controls and of compliance with laws and regulations, and we have no findings to report. The state of Iowa has a separate section in the back of the report on items the state auditor requires to be tested each year, and we report on those. There are no material findings to report. There are some comments that are in there that we're required to provide. In terms of the federal single audit, this is an audit of your federal programs. That is pending due to the government shutdown. The government did not issue any guidance for audits of federal programs. That came out the day before Thanksgiving. So we, and I think, Jason, we quickly got in here last week and we audited the federal transit program and the SAFER grant program, which was for new fire positions. The information's pending. We had no findings as a result of the procedures we performed. So we're just wrapping up what the federal government requires us to document and plan to issue that report in the near future. The next couple slides are just some summary slides of your governmental fund. This one's on governmental fund revenue. So this is going to be the general funds, capital project funds, special revenue funds, and debt service funds. And in total revenues were $67.8 million. That compares to last year of $71.5 million. It's a decrease of $3.7 million or 5% year over year. And just some highlights here. Property tax, you'll see an increase between the fiscal years of 2.3%. It's about 6.8%. The tax rate increased 3.6%, but the taxable value increased 4.3%. So it's a combination of both rate and value causing that increase. In terms of the large decrease this year, that's in the intergovernmental column, which is the fifth one over from the left. You can see it went from 15.9 to 8.9 or almost 9 million. And that decrease is largely due to the American Rescue Plan Act federal program. Most of that was expended on the Aquatic Center in the prior year. And those grants are expiring and wrapping up, so there's definitely not recurring monies there as the coronavirus funding that the federal government approved has been expiring. In addition, last year you had a hazard mitigation grant program of 1.2 million. Most of that revenue was deferred because of the timing when it was received, and that also was recorded as revenue in the current year. And one thing to point out, in the prior year, you had findings over that hazard mitigation grant program, and those were part of our audit testing this year, and those were all corrected. So the prior year findings have been resolved. Last, miscellaneous, I just wanted to point out the park fund received approximately $350,000 in additional donations, largely from a large estate gift. And then that also includes the county reimbursement for the Criswell resurfacing. So that's why you see about a $800,000 increase in the miscellaneous. Expenditures for governmental funds. So comparing fiscal year '25 to fiscal year '24, in total, expenditures were $77.7 million compared to $78.6 million. It's a decrease of $935,000 or 1%. And that includes any fluctuations of debt service or capital outlay, which would be any of the large capital projects that you have ongoing. If you were to exclude debt service and capital outlay and look at more of the current column, which is your everyday operating type services, the increase would actually be $5 million compared to last year. So a few things to point out on these fluctuations. For salary and wage adjustments, we're planned for in the 3 to 4% range. There's also merit increases. And so when you look at the FTEs and the total payroll costs, that came right in line, those increases came right in line with what was planned for. Other increases, you have information cost increases, you have large software implementations in process that are causing some of those increases in your expenditures. And then across the board, and not unusual, we're seeing gas and electric expenditures go up across the state with the cities that we're auditing. And then capital debt service, I want to mention, you issued $15.7 million in general obligation bonds and you paid $11.3 million in principal. When you're issuing debt, that's for your capital programs, which is why you also see a large change in capital outlay. And capital outlay is going to fluctuate. As you know, you have a lot going on. So you have the Middle Road pedestrian bridge, Criswell reclamation, Devil's Glen widening, street resurfacing, Frozen Landing, Middle Road, Forest Grove. There's a lot going on. So that's why you see those changes.
Your Honor,
Yes, Greg.
once again, if I may, just so I understand, the column that says current, and the category is government funds expended. So this doesn't include any of the enterprise funds. This is just the guts of operating the government.
Yes.
And am I reading this correctly, that in fiscal year '23, our expenditures were $33 million? In fiscal year '25, our expenditures are $43 million.
Yes.
We've gone from 33 to 43 in 2 years.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. The enterprise funds are on the next slide. And the way we've shown them is to compare expenses to revenues. Enterprise funds operate more closely to a private business. And so we look at the comparison, is revenue covering the expenditures? And a few things to point out here. The sewer fund has supplies and services increased about 10% this year. Approximately $200,000 was necessary for additional payments for the sewage treatment plant. I believe it's with Davenport. There was also more payroll costs because of a larger allocation of engineering of salaries and benefits that is causing their expenses to increase slightly from last year. But as you note, the revenues still exceed the sewer, so it's still operating more like a commercial entity. The Aquatic Center Fund is understandable that it opened at the end of the fiscal year, so you have some costs, but not yet incurring those revenues. In recycling, salaries and benefits increased 20%. There were several vacancies in the prior year that were finally filled. And so now with staffing, that is, has more in payroll cost. And the Quad City Waterfront Convention Center, last year they actually had no events in fiscal year '24. In terms of separate events, they hosted events, but in terms of their own events, like hosting comedians or having some sort of other entertainment, they did do that in 2025, so that's why you see a bump in expenses and revenues. So in total, on the very far right of the slide, you can see expenses compared to revenues for '25 and for '24. I would like to point out, though, that your enterprise funds still have positive equity and are still cash flowing. Questions on enterprise
questions?
funds?
Okay. We good, Mia?
We're good.
Jason, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
I would just add that I do have the printed final reports available for you downstairs. So we'll get those in your hands between tonight and tomorrow for sure. And then we're available to obviously go through that in more detail or answer any questions that you may have when you review that yourselves. And then regarding Councilmember Jager's question about the expenditures, I think in the governmental funds increasing from, what was it, 33?
Right,
33 to 43.
Yeah. You know, I'll definitely want to kind of get my arms around that before providing a thorough answer. We've certainly had the implementation now of the new labor contracts in that time period with some significant changes to payroll costs, especially in the public safety area. This would include your road use fund, so some things there, especially around, well, I was thinking capital outlay, but that might show up in the column over to the right. Let me take a harder look at that and get you a good answer.
It was striking to me. I'm not sure why. It's 25 or 30% increase, depending on how you look at it, over the course of 2 fiscal years.
One thing that I would mention, that does include your TIF fund. And so the TIF rebates will have quite an impact in that
Okay.
number.
So as the TIF districts increase, the amount of TIF revenue increases.
Yes.
So the amount of TIF rebate increases.
Increases.
So some of that $10 million may be increased TIF rebates
Right.
to developers.
Yeah,
Right.
a significant portion. We've had
That would be an
couple of-
interesting thing to break out too.
Yeah, a
Right.
couple of the new districts out around Middle and I-80 coming on in those
Yeah.
couple of years.
Yeah.
So that's certainly a significant portion of the increase.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, thank you very much, Mia, and thank you, Jason. I see Calissa is on with us. Thank you for your work, Calissa. Heal quickly.
Does most of the work, Your Honor, for the audit.
And I understand why she's not here today.
Yeah, she couldn't be with us. She's at home nursing a bit of an injury, and I'll leave it at that.
Heal quickly, dear. All right, thank you both very much, and thank you for your work,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Calissa.
Calissa.
I'm sorry, Calissa. All right, let's move to our next presentation. This is for Public Works Director Brian Schmidt. Brian, you have the floor.
Thank you, Your Honor. What you have in front of you is a draft residential sanitary sewer lateral assistance program policy and procedures document. If you recall, we've discussed this beginning in August of 2024, and now this has been identified as one of the top priorities of council coming out of goal setting this past October. So let me just get right into it. So per Bettendorf City Code 8-2-12, sanitary sewer laterals are the homeowner's responsibility to repair or replace. That is from the home all the way out to the public sanitary sewer. With this particular program, that policy will not change. We do not see amending the ordinance of changing the responsibility still of the homeowner. However, owners of single-family residential properties and duplexes may be eligible to have the city assist in those costs, and I'll get into those a little bit when I talk about how the program works. However, so basically, what we're saying in this particular document is that the city will assist on the cost if you are a single-family or residential property owner that own your home, you have lived in the home for at least 1 year, and that when you do repair or replace your sanitary sewer lateral, you do bring it up to current city standards and municipal codes. How the program works: if a property owner has an issue with their sanitary sewer, just as we have now, the first thing that we ask them to do is that they contact Public Works. Our staff will go out and actually clean and televise the sanitary sewer main in front of the home to identify, to make sure that there's no particular problem with our particular system. If they do identify a system or a problem still, or if we do not find a problem with the main, then we let the homeowner know that there may be an issue with their lateral, and then our guys give them a letter, and then off they go. But under this new program, what we would do is have the homeowner, if there is a problem with their lateral, we would have them contact a licensed plumber who then will actually rod out or snake the sanitary sewer lateral from the home out to the main to remove any obstructions first. That cost would be still borne by the property owner. If they do find an issue with the lateral, like a defect or something that is causing that, then that's when we'll have them actually run, the plumber will actually run a camera down the sanitary sewer lateral. They will actually prepare us a report. They will identify any defects in that sanitary sewer lateral and then put flags out in the yard and whatnot. And then our Public Works Department, in conjunction with our city plumber and community development, will review that videotape and then identify the problem and come up with a best course of action moving forward. Currently, the cost of the video inspections are paid for by the owner. So I'm recommending that we actually include this in the cost of the assistance part with the city. We're looking at between $125 to $200 per home to actually camera and prepare the report, is what we've seen talking to various plumbers, and also with my colleagues over in the city of Davenport and Rock Island. So that's the cost of the lateral.
Why would we do that?
camera.
Just, I'm not being critical. Tell us why you think we should do that.
Well, the first thing to do is, when we have a camera in there, we actually then can review all the report and the videotape and identify if the lateral has just a particular crack in one section. It also depends on the type of main, the material that it is. If it's an Orangeburg pipe, it needs to be entirely removed, or it's a clay pipe, which may still be structurally sound, but there may be a lot of joint issues that are causing a lot of I&I. So we may repair just a particular section of the defect, but then turn around after a year later, which we have seen in the past, all of a sudden have more issues back underneath our pavement. So it's just good for us to go ahead and have that peace of mind, knowing that we have that entire lateral cameraed and all the potential defects identified.
Okay.
So,
I understand.
so
Question.
yes, sir.
Yeah, Jerry?
So does the plumber then bill the city direct? He doesn't bill the homeowner, and then the homeowner come to us for reimbursement?
That is correct.
He bills the city direct.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Yep. So if a sanitary sewer is deemed defective by the city, the owner then will hire a licensed contractor, and they have 60 days to actually make the repair or replace the main, depending on how bad we determine that particular lateral is. The contractor then will be required to obtain, obviously, any permits through the city. A permit through the community development department, plumbing permit, but also if there is an issue out in the street in the right-of-way, they have to obtain a right-of-way permit to actually excavate in the street. This is a way also for us to track that work that's all being done. So the cost of removing the concrete, excavation, repair of the sanitary sewer lateral and everything is still the responsibility of the homeowner. Where the assistance part of this program comes into place is that after the lateral is repaired, and the contractor brings up the rock in the right-of-way up to the bottom of the existing pavement, then the city will actually hire through a contractor or in-house staff to actually replace the street pavement or the sidewalk. That'll all be inspected by our plumbing department on the community development side when it's being installed, and then all of my construction staff making sure that that patch is done correctly when it's all done. And then obviously the city will come in and backfill and seed and sod the denuded, excuse me, the denuded areas in the right-of-way. What we do not pay for is different things like utility relocations, or if there was an issue where the contractor was actually out there digging, I have a section in there too of non-eligible program to receive the assistance. The city would not obviously entertain assisting a homeowner that actually was out there digging in the right-of-way or anything by themselves and damaged the lateral on their own. That would still be their responsibility. But overall, this is a draft document that I wanted to put in front of you and just kind of open it up for any conversations.
Any questions? Greg, hey,
Thank you.
I see you, Nick, you'll be next.
How many times, I know it varies, but how many times on average a year does this occur?
This particular year, we actually had 2 residents that actually had lateral issues. And then last year, I looked into the records, I believe we had 4 or 5. It was the year prior, we had, I think, 7.
Okay,
So
it's
I would
not
say average, we may average 5 a year.
5, yeah, so it's not dozens and dozens.
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Nick,
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Schmidt, this is great. I appreciate you pulling all this together. I did have a question. When you talk about bringing the lateral up to city code, you've referenced patching the affected area, but when you say bringing it up to city code, does that mean the entire lateral would have to be replaced, or just the portion that was of issue?
Once again, that all depends on the particular material. In our ordinance right now, under our amended plumbing code, it specifically states that if we identify an Orangeburg sanitary sewer lateral, that lateral has to be removed and replaced in its entirety.
Okay, and that would be covered by the program. Then it just, again, just depended on the material that the lateral is constructed of at its current time of issue.
Correct. I just want to be clear, though, that it's the homeowner's responsibility to entirely replace their lateral. The only thing that we're offering with this particular program is actually removing and actually replacing the pavement, any pavement within the right-of-way after the lateral was repaired.
That's where the big bucks are.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Greg J.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Decker, did you have something on
No,
that?
no, go ahead.
particular-
I'll
Okay.
wait, Your Honor.
Go ahead, Greg.
I just wanted to thank Brian and the team for putting this together. I think the council knows that we're looking at some fairly large increases in the sewer utility to offset some of the costs associated with upgrading and maintaining our sewage treatment plant. And anything we can do to help show our residents that we're trying to provide value for the money we take, I think is very good. At 5 homes a year, I can't say that this is going to be a huge expense to the sewer utility fund. But I think for those people who unfortunately have sewer lateral problems, I think this is going to be very important. And I think it's easy for us to say we are trying to provide greater value to our residents with this program. So I'm very grateful for staff putting it together and for the council considering it.
Other comments? Yes, Connor.
Yeah, so Brian, what's the logic on the 1 year, having had to been in the home 1 year and then also the owner occupied?
Yeah, one of the things too that I've talked to my colleagues over in Davenport and the city of Rock Island is that a lot of realtors have jumped on this, to be honest with you, Alderman Flaherty, where somebody said, oh, I'm going to sell my home, and all of a sudden, or they're a renter and whatnot, and they just go ahead and these realtors will tell the individual that, hey, it's in your best interest to go ahead and run a camera down this to find out if you have a defective lateral, and if it is, get on the city's program. Now, mind you, the other cities in our area, they go through an arduous application process and all this other stuff, and they hire the contractors and whatnot. But in this particular case, like I said, we would just be paying for the pavement. But if you, by having the owner actually live in, an actual owner, and because talking to council in previous work sessions, I believe it was collectively that it was not going to be for people who were renting the home, but actually owner occupied. And then actually having them live in the home at least a year, we just wanted to kind of eliminate those properties that were just going up for sale and trying to jump on a program just to get a lateral that was known to be defective.
Okay. I would challenge that maybe we have some additional discussion on that, just looking at the opportunity cost that we might be impacting some young family owners, that they buy a home and then suddenly are saddled with that cost as maybe their first experience of a big repair on their home. And then also, I mean, I've got family and friends that have chosen to defer investments in 401k and invest in rental properties in Bettendorf. Are we creating an unintentional consequence that we're discouraging them from investing in Bettendorf if those programs are available other places? I just think it's worth being thoughtful of that we don't pass cost onto our renters because we don't have that available.
Well, one of the things too that we do have in our current ordinance that states that let's just say if a particular homeowner came to us and said, and that we determined that they have a defective lateral, and they came to us and said, we can't pay for it. Our current ordinance allows us to go ahead and have the city go ahead and repair that in its entirety and assess those costs back to the property owner over a specified time
Yep, understood.
to offset that cost, so.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you, Your Honor.
Anybody else? Yes, Mr. Plain.
And I guess also wanted to remind council that we have the program through the National League of Cities with service line warranties where homeowners can buy the insurance for the lateral line. And Iowa American offers a similar program. And now I'm aware of at least 2 different major insurance companies as part of your homeowner's policy that allows coverage to occur for your lateral. So as Brian talked about, we occasionally will have someone that will come to us, and usually through the plumber, to say they've got this thing wide open now and they understand the problem and they can't afford it. And we have that conversation about, can we make an assessment over 10 years? So we kind of thought by all those combination of things that there's plenty of venue for someone to get assistance in some form as they go about making a purchase of a home to make sure that, either they insure it themselves or they find coverage for those things. And or if that's not available, we've got that program that we talked about.
All right, thank you. Brian, thank you very much. We appreciate your work and the work of your staff to put this together. We'll take a look at it. We'll call you with questions, and we'll have some more discussion about it as we move forward. Let's attack our items to appear. Items 6 and 7 are both for our city engineer, Brent Morlock. Come on up, Brent. You have the floor, my friend.
Thank you, Your Honor. Excuse me.
Thank you for coming with that cold, Brent. We appreciate it.
I sound a lot worse than I feel, is the only thing I will say. So the first item that I have is a resolution approving an amended agreement for our 33rd Street drainage project. If you remember this project, it may seem like a lifetime ago. It's about going on 3 years ago that we were awarded a grant through the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program through Iowa Homeland to provide at that point, some drainage improvements that were going to benefit Sevier Steel. Obviously, Sevier is no longer in operation there, but we still have a problem for that property. All the runoff coming down that hill, what we were aiming to do was intercept that and take it down to our big storm sewer interceptor down on 35th Street that eventually leads to our pond. We are actually substantially complete with construction. It may, again, not seem possible. We ran into every issue you could imagine during construction, working with the railroad, the utilities, mainly the rail. But the project is complete. We just have a little restoration left in the spring. So as we've started our reimbursement through Iowa Homeland and basically a little bit of a pre-audit work that they were doing, we are now on our third different project manager at Iowa Homeland. Unfortunately, they've had a lot of turnover. And this particular one noticed that we were missing a terms and conditions sheet that should have been included with the initial bid. The project manager provided all that documentation to us. We basically plugged it in at that time and issued the bid. This one did not get to us, so they would like us to come back and amend the agreement so that way they can process our reimbursements, which obviously is very critical to us. As I stated in the council letter, the only term or condition that would have any monetary impact is that the project would require to pay Davis-Bacon wages, which we knew, since it's federal pass-through money, that was included in a separate part of the contract. There's just a lot of other, I would say, rather meaningless federal terms and conditions that have to be in there. A lot of them don't apply to this type of project. But since it is a substantial document, and talking with Chris, he recommended that we do a full amended agreement. So I would ask, are there any questions on this
Any
particular?
questions for Brent? All right, this will remain on tomorrow night's agenda as item 6. Let's move to item 7 on the lift station improvement.
Okay, so this is a final change order for one of the two contracts that we have that comprise the Spencer Creek lift station. This is with Jim Schrader Construction. This was construction of the actual lift station itself, removal of the two existing lift stations, and a little bit of pipe work. So when we bid this, if you remember that this is all SRF funded, so it had a little bit of a different bidding scenario where we had to get a bidding opinion, we had to have Ehlers help us, and then obviously everything had to be approved through SRF before we could issue contracts. Lift stations themselves are generally bid as a lump sum contract, as opposed to our unit price contracts that we have for streets where we can measure everything because of the intricacies. Building projects in general are done as a lump sum. Our engineers, McClure Engineering on this particular job, did a lump sum for the station, but did have a couple of unit price items for the site work. So basically the access road leading in, the fencing, and a little bit of additional gravel on the interior. The intent of the bid was for the bidders to give us a total that would include those estimated unit price items as well as the lump sum item. As we did some recon on the bids before we awarded, we were talking with the low bidder, and there was some discrepancy on whether he included that, and he was telling us, that's not the way I read it. I was only supposed to submit the lump sum as the total, and then the unit price items would get added in. So we had some further review with SRF. We also discussed with all of the other bidders to make sure everybody was still apples to apples, and everybody interpreted the bid documents that way. So what we talked through with SRF, they said award the lump sum bid and then change order in the 3 unit price items. So we knew this upfront. We knew this at the beginning of the bid, but since they were estimated quantities, we chose to just wait till the end till we had as-built quantities instead of doing 2 change orders, one to bring it in and then one to modify the final quantities. So this is the final quantity. The money was included in the overall budget. We had a $3 million budget that was set. This project actually originally started at about $3.5 million. The numbers came in really well. The bid numbers did. So we are still under the amended budget, which has been reduced down by this added change. It's about $83,000, and that again was all part of the original. Just the way the bids shook out, we weren't able to do it on the front end.
Any questions? All right, this will remain on tomorrow night's agenda as item to appear number 7. Jason, let's talk about the revised debt management policy that we've been discussing.
I'm just gonna put my name on this chair for the next couple months, if that's okay.
Reserved for.
And if you're okay, Your Honor, I'll handle items, I think, B, C, and D.
Yep, that's totally fine. You're up 3 times in a row.
Yep.
Knock them out of the park, then we'll ask any questions that we have.
All right, thank you very much. So, as council is well aware, we've had several discussions over the last several months regarding the city's debt limitations, how that relates to the CIP and projects. And I think we've come to a pretty good conclusion and resolution of that issue with a change to the debt management policy, which was at last adopted I believe in June of 2021. So we took another look at that without really changing much of the language. We just did a couple of adds, and I'll highlight those here. We have added to the general obligation debt limit section on page 1 that the city will set a target limit of $9 million in new GO debt annually, not including voter-approved debt like the referendum debt for the police station that was just approved, revenue debt or urban renewal debt, and then the general obligation debt that's within an enterprise fund. We do have a few of those loans outstanding in sewer and stormwater. I don't think it was the intent of council to have that debt count against this $9 million cap on the CIP. But we do give council the flexibility to exceed that cap by resolution when necessary in the capital improvement plan and when the debt service fund can afford it. So that's kind of the change instituting that $9 million, I would call it a soft cap on the CIP as far as general obligation debt goes. On page 2 of the policy, we just talk about the duration of the debt, the term. And wherever possible, we're going to try to issue our GO debt with terms of 15 years. And that it shows up in a couple places in the policy. So first on page 2, and then on page, well, a different paragraph on page 2, the principal repayment structure. So we've typically amortized our GO debt over 20 years. I think with property valuation growth and the debt levy where it is today, we can afford to take on a shorter amortization and pay less interest over time. So we'll pay or intend to or target 15-year amortization on those general obligation bonds. I would suggest that we remain doing the 20 years on revenue debt, and you'll see later in the presentation tonight, the police station bonds, we always plan to be 20 years. Urban renewal bonds typically run with the length of the urban renewal area, so those will likely remain at 20 years, but it looks like we can afford to go to 15 years on the GO. This was just kind of a change to get us caught up with current practice. We are currently using S&P to rate our bonds rather than Moody's, so we added S&P language to the policy, and that is all of the changes to the debt policy. So I'll pause here before I move on and take any questions or comments.
Questions? All right. Yes, Greg J.
I just want to say, Your Honor, the council has listened to me harangue for a number of meetings and a number of hours. I appreciate the fact that the council has considered these things. To me, the levy and the amount of debt are both important. This seems to address the amount of debt over time. I'm grateful that the council is considering these changes, and I thank staff for putting it together.
Thank you. All right, Jason, thanks so much. That's item to appear consent B. I'd like to entertain a motion that it remains so for tomorrow night.
Second.
All those in favor?
Give it to us.
No, this is a great thing.
Any opposed? We'll take it up as consent B. Let's move to consent C as in cat, please.
All right into putting that policy into practice. Our bond sale for 2026 construction season is set for mid-February. So the process of the council would begin on January 20th with our first public hearing on the issuance of that debt. Now, I want to point out that public hearing is only about the CIP portion of the debt that you see on the table in front of you. The urban renewal portion was already heard at a public hearing in 2024. And then the police station is treated separately because it's referendum debt that was approved by voters in November. So the public hearing will cover the 8.485 estimated par amount of bonds. That amount will net us $9 million in construction proceeds because we expect to get a little bit of a reoffering premium on the sale. So we'll net $9 million while only borrowing 8.485. We will also at the same time sell the remaining 2.845 million in urban renewal bonds that fund the Middle Road Gateway Bridge project. That's the final issuance of debt for that project, and we'll take it to completion. And then we will issue the first $10 million of the up to $27 million that was approved for the police station. Again, a little bit of premium there. We'll issue 9.665, expecting to net $10 million to the construction fund there. Right now, you'll see in the pre-sale summary that Baker Tilly provided and is provided in the packet, a projected true interest cost at 3.92%. That's a little bit higher than what we experienced last year. And if experience tells us anything, we may come in lower than that at the time of sale. And then the projected FY27 debt levy rate would remain at 4.85 for the bulk of our debt, but we would add 23.29 cents to cover that new referendum debt. Remember, we can issue up to 27 million for the police station. We'll issue the rest next year at this time and levy the full amount. Our estimates prior to the election was that that would require about a 67 to 69 cent increase on the levy rate to cover that debt. I think by the end of it, with growth and valuation and things like that, we'll be somewhere around 63 cents or less. So that's good too. On the next page, you'll see the projects that the bonds will cover. These were all outlined in the CIP, which is included in the packet, and we've presented that at a previous committee of the whole. This is kind of a summary view of the CIP. So 9 million towards your general CIP, including sidewalks, bridges, alleys, and streets. That 2.945 net proceeds will go to the middle road pedestrian bridge, and then the 10 million to the police station.
Question while you're on that.
Go ahead, Jay. Yeah, and then Frank.
Thank you,
bet.
Gunner. So if my understanding is we're legally limited then for this $9 million, we're legally limited to this project list.
In broad terms, that's correct. Where we say street reconstruction, obviously we have flexibility within reconstruction
Correct, yep.
to maneuver between streets or projects. So in broad terms, that's absolutely right. We're limited to what we say here.
Thank you.
Frank?
Quiet zones, how many is that covering?
Is the city engineer still in the building?
That is an estimate for an upfront cost to the railroad. If you remember, I had said that any new signal that requires, or any new crossing that requires new signals, the railroad actually does that all themselves and we reimburse it. So it's an estimate on what we might need. So it's not necessarily, we think we'll get 3 done in this following year. That is an estimate for what all of them, roughly 50% of what all that cost might come from. Essentially a deposit on that work.
Thank you.
Craig, Jay.
Thank you, Your Honor. Jason, excuse me, on that list, can you tell me which of these items are currently in the CIP for fiscal year 26 and which of these items are in the CIP for fiscal year 27?
Off the top of my head, I can't. We can look at the CIP. We do divide the fiscal years into columns, so we can tell you which fiscal year a construction season falls in.
Just as a sort of a follow-up to Jerry, Councilmember Sessions' question, if we are limited to these projects by borrowing this money, and if some of these projects are in fiscal year 27, then what we're doing is we're locking down a portion of the CIP for fiscal year 27 by approving the bonds at this time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Jason. Thank you.
All right. That is everything I have on the bond sale and CIP.
Any questions on the bond sale other than those that have been asked? I'd like to entertain a motion. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have interrupted you. I just wanted to say, your first action will be just setting the public hearing.
Yeah, oh, we're setting, yes. Okay, so I'd like this to remain on consent tomorrow night as consent C. I'd like to entertain a motion to do so.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll take it up tomorrow as consent C to set a public hearing. Let's move to D as in dog.
And this is just our monthly finance summary for the month of October. Well, I would love to strive to get it to you for the first meeting in the second month following the end of the period. We took a look at it for the first meeting last time. There just wasn't enough transactions posted to give me a comfort level that most everything was posted. So I think we're going to shoot for this second meeting. But overall, at the end of October, you're 33% of the way through the fiscal year. And revenue overall is right at 33% collected compared to budget. Property taxes at 45%. This isn't surprising. We should be close to 50%. And I would anticipate there will be some October collections that accrue back to this month going forward. Everything else running actually ahead, other than charges for services at 28%. We'll keep an eye on that. I'm not too concerned by that. Most of that is utility billing, which is billed quarterly. So you're not really following the calendar quite as closely as some of the other revenue sources do. So we'll keep an eye on that one, but everything looks to be right on pace as of October 31st from a revenue standpoint. And then on the expenditure side, here's a table of expenditures by function. The bar chart is actually expenditures by department. The total dollars in each are exactly the same at this point in the year. Again, we're 33% of the way through the calendar, or the calendar of the fiscal year, and have spent just 27% of the budget overall. If you look down in the departments, you'll see actual departmental spending is right on pace, somewhere between 30 and 35% for most departments. So everything is looking good there. Where we're lagging is things like community and economic development, where we're only at 16%. Well, that includes TIF rebate payments. Those don't go out till December 1st. So I assume when we look at the December report, you'll see that category increase substantially. Also, it's the same with debt service. We'll pay interest as of December 1st. Principal's only paid once a year in June, so that one will always lag a little bit behind as well. But all in all, I think everything is kind of right on track as you would expect for the first 4 months of the fiscal year. And we'll keep providing these reports to you as quickly as we can each month.
Thank you, sir. Questions? Greg J.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a quick question, or a comment, I guess. When last we talked about this, I know I suggested that you put a comment in to give me your impression as to what's going on. I see from the council letter where you say, departmental operating expenditures are right on pace to meet budget expectations. That's exactly the kind of information in summary format that I'm hoping to get. I appreciate it and thank you.
Perfect. All right. Thank you.
Hey, way to go, Jason.
Off to a good start, Ron.
You get to keep that chair.
Any other questions? Comments? Okay, let's entertain a motion that this remain on tomorrow night's agenda as consent D.
So move.
Second.
Take a look at the all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, let's take a look at the remaining consent agenda items. Any questions on those at this time? Okay, let's entertain a motion to approve all consent agenda items for consideration tomorrow night.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Good job.
No, when Nick takes his microphone off, I call him.
Perfect.
Any other items to be added by council for tomorrow night? I have none. 'Tis the season went fine, I'm sure. Pretty awesome.
Other than one slight faux pas by the Grinch, but we caught it and corrected it.
Fantastic. All right, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, we stand adjourned. Good work, people. We'll see you tomorrow night.